Hello again, it's me, Phil, with yet another Ender Magnolia video. This time, instead of ranking something new like in my previous two videos on this game, I think it's about time to do a full-on analysis of the game as a whole. I'll be comparing Magnolia to its predecessor Ender Lilies and maybe some other Metroidvanias through 5 separate categories, which will be combat and gameplay, map and world design, enemies and bosses, music, lore, and by the end I'll give my full thoughts on the game and where I would place it among my favorite Metroidvanias. So without any further ado, let's begin. The best way to describe Ender Magnolia's combat and gameplay is it's Ender Lilies combat, but done better. So much better. Don't get me wrong, Ender Lilies does have some fun gameplay and satisfying combat, but it had so many issues. Firstly, controlling Lily always felt awkward, not helped by having the dolphin dive as your dodge. Contact damage was so annoying and unnecessary. I had so many instances where when I dodge an enemy's attack, I just end up bumping into the enemy and take full damage, which was really annoying. Getting the dash did help a little bit with the controls, but the contact damage was still an unnecessary addition. As for the combat, while I do like it, it also had a lot of issues. While the game has like around 30 spirits you can use, over half of them are completely useless, and some of them you can't use in specific conditions, so that's just great. Also, while I do understand why they put limited uses to some of them, it's just always discouraged me from ever experimenting with different spirits. And another thing that discouraged me from experimenting is that you have limited upgrade resources, so usually I just stick with the same loadout without ever experimenting. Ender Magnolia fixes all of these issues while also expanding on the combat. Firstly, Lilac controls super well. The removal of contact damage also helped with the gameplay feel. Now I don't have to worry about running into enemies. The contact damage removal also adds a bit of depth to the combat, since some of attacks I can just avoid by positioning instead of dodging. They also reduce the iframes you get from your dodging and your dodge distance. But this is actually a good thing, since now you have to mix in jumping and positioning to avoid danger. You can still dodge, but now you have to be much more precise. I also appreciate the implementation of the status effects. Makes you think twice how to approach a certain encounter that can apply you a potentially dangerous status effect on you. As for the combat, well, it is a massive improvement. You have 10 different homunculi you can use, but all of them come with 3 different abilities. And all of them are not only useful, they just feel so good to use. Nola with her sick weapons as a primary ability, Lethal with his ability to blast away incoming threats, Shackled Beast with his parries, Number 7 with his awesome looking attacks, Raybolg with his laser shotgun, and Lorna, who might as well be a menace in this world. They got rid of the limited uses system. Instead, your abilities are categorized as primary, cooldown, pressure, and auto, each filling in a different role. Unlike in the first game where I was barely experimenting, in this one I was constantly switching my loadout to serve my need. And if you're worried about which homunculi should you invest the most, take a look at this. This is every ability upgraded to its max level on a single run. In other words, the game basically tells you to experiment as much as possible. And that's what I did on every playthrough of the game, and it is so fun. Relics from the first game are back, and they act more like buffs to your character, like reducing damage, increasing damage dealt, and so on. It might sound boring on paper, but in practice you can combine certain relics with your current ability loadout to have some dominating power in your favor. Remember how I said enemies can apply to you some status effects? Well, you can do that as well, and the results speak for themselves. On top of that, now you can upgrade your relics to make them even stronger. I also like the implementations of bracelets, totems and carapaces. They're mostly used for increasing damage, defense, health and stuff like that, but they are still very important if you want to survive in this hostile world. In conclusion, Ender Magnolia's combat is Ender Lily's combat but perfected. Now, is it my favorite combat system ever put for a Metroidvania? No. No, I don't think so. It is up there for sure, but I still think that Nine Souls combat system is the best combat system for a 2D game that I've seen. Still, I think they did a fantastic job fleshing out the foundation that was set in the first game. I already said this before, but I will say it again, that the map system in Ender Magnolia is the single greatest map system in any Metroidvania I've played. Ender Lilies had the right idea, but fumbled it in its execution. Like, look at this! How the hell are you supposed to figure out this crap? Magnolia's map, on the other hand, is detailed, so you're never confused as to where to go and explore. I also really like how the map will automatically mark the blocked off paths, but the moment you get the ability you need, the map will be updated to show you that now you can go and explore those places. And I can't stress enough how genius of an idea it is to have rooms change colors based on if you found all the collectibles and secrets. It helps a lot if you want to explore more but you're not sure where to go, while also helps those who want to have 100% map completion. It is perfect. I really think more Metroidvanias should adopt this design choice, especially these days since Metroidvanias are getting bigger and bigger. Now for the world and level design. The first game had some really good levels such as Twin Spires, but it also had Verboten Domain and Abyss. One of the worst levels I've experienced in any game. Like genuinely, these two levels always make me want to stop playing the game altogether. So leading up to its release, I was really worried with how level design will go. But then I entered Crimson Forest. A massive, beautiful area filled with unique enemies, secrets, with a unique gimmick centered around teleporting flowers and the whole level revolving around a single checkpoint. Like, oh my god, I was blown away by that area. It did have some issues on the release, but the point is, it was better than any area found in Ender Lilies. And this goes for the rest of the game's areas as well. Sorcerer's Academy, Biological Research Facility, Steel District, Crystalline Realm, Upper Stratum, those are some of the best levels I've experienced. Even those that I considered to be just good are a ton of fun to explore. The only area in this game that kinda sucks is Land of Origin, but even then the area isn't so bad it makes me want to quit the game. As far as I'm concerned, we got 3 amazing areas: Crimson Forest, Steel District, and especially Upper Stratum. What an amazing final area. If you want more of my thoughts on the individual levels, then I recommend watching my area ranking video. The exploration in general is also great, as you can find health upgrades, upgrade materials, relics, bracelets, and so on and so forth. So yeah, I think they did a fantastic job with the world design. If I were to compare to my favorite Metroidvanias, then I think it's tied with Hollow Knight and Prince of Persia. I can't decide which game arguably had better levels. What's a good combat system without good enemies and bosses to test your skills, right? When it comes to the enemy variety, this game knocks it out of the park. Each area is filled to the brim with new and unique enemies, and they do a fantastic job representing the area that they are found in. Their designs especially are amazing. I really like the art direction in this game, especially when it comes to the enemies. But how are those enemies mechanically? How fun are they to fight? Well, I would say that for the most part, they are great. Ninjas and samurais in Steel District are awesome. The beasts found in Crimson Forest are great, especially the electric horned beasts. The bird beasts from Crystalline Realm are some of the most intimidating looking enemies. Sorcerers from the Academy are utilized cleverly with their spells and magic. And of course there are knights and guards all throughout the game, which are by far my favorite, especially those seen in upper stratum. I will say though, there are some enemies that I really wish they did not exist. Like, I'm sorry for beating the dead horse here, but did anyone want to see rats return? I sure didn't. The exploding spike balls are also terrible enemies because sometimes they explode immediately, but sometimes they don't. There are also other examples of annoying enemies, but I won't harp on it too much since I would argue that most of the enemies are pretty good. As for the bosses, oh man, do I have a lot to say about them. Again, I already made a video ranking every single boss and mini-boss from worst to best if you want more detailed analysis on each of them. I would say mini-boss quality in general is mostly around D tier, with maybe one or two exceptions. Not bad, can be a lot of fun to just use your toolkit, but nothing groundbreaking. As for the major encounters, there is not a single one I would call bad. The worst of them would be Yolwen, who is between C and D. Most of them are solid B tier fights. The main praise I can give them is how varied they are. You fight a beast that attacks you with chains, a wolf driven to madness, a giant machine equipped with claws and lasers, an underwater fight with a man who turned himself into a homunculus, and etc. The biggest standouts for me were Gar, the giant gravedigger, Combat Puppet number 7, Lucia, the Iron Witch, Mad Knight Raybolg, and Gilroy, the Administrator. By the way, the best boss in the whole game. The boss quality isn't exceptional, but I still think it's good overall. And when compared to the first game's boss roster, well, what is there to say? This is the first boss you fight in Ender Lilies. Pretty standard and boring. This is the first boss you fight in Magnolia. I know which one I prefer. This section will be short since I am not a music expert. I can only just say if I liked the music or not. And in case for Magnolia, I adore its soundtrack and it is currently my favorite video game soundtrack ever. I mean, come on, it is Millie that we are talking about. Like, have you heard the other tracks they've made? They are insanely talented group. Magnolia's soundtrack is filled with somber melodies, upbeat music, tracks that are unnerving, and some absolutely beautiful melodies. My favorite has to be the theme for the final boss for True Ending. And also the track for Steel District. I didn't think they would outdo Ender Lily's soundtrack since that game's OST was already phenomenal, but I'm glad I was proven wrong here. Alright, let's talk about what is probably the most divisive aspect of Magnolia, its lore and narrative. I've seen so many people criticizing the game's narrative and how it pales when compared to its predecessor. So, what do I think of this? Well, if we're talking about the lore, then I think both games have an interesting lore. I was heavily invested in finding out more about the world in both Lilies and Magnolia, so I don't have a preference here. But the narrative is a bit trickier to discuss. I think the first game is much more effective in telling a narrative that hits you in the feels. But at the same time, the game sacrificed way too much gameplay to tell its narrative. The best example of this is the final boss, where narratively it is a fantastic moment, but when you look at it mechanically, it is dreadful. Magnolia's narrative, on the other hand, while I do think it's good, it doesn't hit the same as the first game did, but it also didn't sacrifice gameplay to tell its story. This comes down to preference. For me personally, I'm a gameplay oriented kind of guy, so that is why I really dislike the Blighted Lord as much as I do. As for the new characters that Magnolia introduced, I quite like them. I like Lilac and Nola. I enjoy their interactions throughout the game as they discover more about their past. In fact, the interactions between different homunculi whenever you sit at a checkpoint are always my favorite. They are so good, I wish there was more of it. Like, give us more of bickering between Shackled Beast and Raybulk. That one was kinda funny. In conclusion, I think the narrative and the lore are pretty good and kept me engaged with its story from beginning to end. Ender Magnolia is the perfect example of how to make a sequel that improves on the previous entry in every way possible. The gameplay is much smoother and controls are better. The combat is fantastic and fixes some of the gripes that I had with Ender Lily's combat while also expanding on it. The level design is insanely good with some of the best levels that I've seen in any MV. The music is filled with banger after banger and the soundtrack as a whole is memorable. And the story is really engaging. So where would I put Ender Magnolia among other Metroidvanias that I've played in the past? For me, MVs fall in 4 separate categories. The first one is reserved for those that are either really bad or boring as hell to play through. The second one is reserved for the decent MVs, those that I enjoyed playing through, maybe had a highlight or two, but would probably never return to it. The third category is for good Metroidvanias, maybe even great, those that I come back to from time to time to experience some really amazing moments those games offer. And then there's the fourth and final one, reserved for the best of the best, the ones that will stick with me for the rest of my life. Hollow Knight, Nine Souls and Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. Those are phenomenal games. And I really think Ender Magnolia deserves to be in that category among them. Absolutely incredible game, and I think this is my game of the year so far. Though I do plan on playing Expedition 33 next, so that might change. Thanks for watching this video, and please, if you haven't, go play this masterpiece of a game. See you with the next video soon.